Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Education Matters. On today's show, we'll be focusing on reading, why it's so important to encourage your child to read, the benefits of reading, and how your child can develop a love of reading. The Quran stresses the importance of reading and reflecting. The very first verse that was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam begins with the word Iqra, read.
As a parent, you have the power to boost your children's learning potential simply by making books an integral part of their lives. Here are just some of the benefits of reading to your child from an early age.
As your child grows older, they will be on the move, playing, running, and constantly exploring their environment. Snuggling up with a book lets the two of you slow down and spend quality time with each other.
Bedtime reading is a calming and relaxing activity. It's a warm and loving experience between parent and child, and the sound of a parent's voice can be very comforting. Instead of being seen as a chore or a task, reading will become a nurturing activity that will bring the two of you closer together.
Throughout preschool, your child is learning critical language skills. By listening to you read, your child is reinforcing the basic sounds that form language.
When you spend time reading to children, they will be much more likely to express themselves and relate to others in a healthy way. By witnessing the interactions between the characters in the books you read, as well as the contact with you during story time, your child is gaining valuable communication skills.
By reading to children, they develop their ability to grasp abstract concepts, apply logic in various scenarios, recognize cause and effect, and utilize good judgment. As your child begins to relate the scenarios in books to what's happening in his or her own world, they will become more excited about the stories you share.
Young children may initially become distracted during story time, but eventually they will learn to stay put for the duration of the book. Along with reading comprehension comes a stronger self-discipline, longer attention span, and better memory retention, all of which will serve your child well when they enter school.
Children who are exposed to reading are much more likely to choose books over video games, television, and other forms of entertainment as they grow older.
Reading is one of the most essential and valuable activities children can inherit from parents simply by observing them being engrossed in a book. Reading is one activity parents should aim to get caught doing in front of their children.
A child who has been read to will want to learn to read themselves. He or she will want to do what they see their parents doing. But if a child never sees anyone pick up a book, they are unlikely to have that desire to read.
Early readers will be armed with the vocabulary necessary to communicate with their peers, teachers, and parents. Children who have the ability to find the words they want to use are more likely to have a strong self-image, sense of confidence, and higher academic standing.
Well-read children are more likely to attempt to formulate their thoughts before becoming angry or frustrated. With more knowledge comes more confidence. More confident builds self-esteem. It's a chain reaction.
Strong reading ability will enable children to absorb and understand new information and affect their attainment in all subjects. Reading improves a child's ability to take on new information and new concepts across the curriculum.
Reading promotes a child's motor skills, such as learning to turn the pages and using their memory skills. Children have favorite stories that will be repeated over and over again, which helps build memory.
The more words a child learns and understands, the better they are able to communicate and articulate their thoughts and emotions.
Reading helps to develop and foster a child's natural curiosity.
Stories encourage a child to think and ask questions, which in turn helps them to process thoughts and worries. Reading can also help with difficult situations, so the child learns that they are not alone in what they are experiencing. Worries at school, bullying, or being different, for example.
Regular reading also quells fears, exposes children to new situations, and teaches them appropriate behaviour. It teaches children vital lessons about the world. For example, Little Red Riding Hood teaches children not to talk to strangers.
Research shows that those children who are read to daily are a year ahead of those who are read to less frequently. Children who are read to more often keep doing better as they get older, compared with other children.
Children who read for pleasure are more likely to do better in maths and English than those who rarely read in their free time.
There is a clear difference between conversing with a child and reading to them. Speech can often be full of jargon, slang, and simplified sentences. On the other hand, language in books is very rich and more sophisticated where there are complete sentences. A child who hears more sophisticated words has great advantage over other children.
The Institute of Education at the University of London examined the reading habits of 6,000 children. It indicated that reading for pleasure is 4 times greater than the advantage of having a university-educated parent. The researchers concluded that a wide vocabulary helped children absorb information across the curriculum. Their findings also showed that those who read often at the age of 10 and had been reading books and newspapers more than once a week at age 16 had performed better than those who had read less.
Literacy is integral to our lives. The effects of low literacy are far-reaching and touch every aspect of our daily life. Here are a few ways that low literacy affects us as individuals and as a community.
Literacy impacts upon income, employment, and financial well-being. For many, a lack of literacy skills makes it difficult in pursuing a better life for themselves and their families.
Many adults with low literacy levels and their families live in a cycle of poverty. Poverty is far-reaching, affecting health, security, housing, food, lifestyle, and the ability to access education and services to improve one's situation.
Parents with low literacy skills tend not to read to their children or model reading and writing for them, a factor that affects their child's future literacy abilities.
Children learn early literacy skills from their parents. By the time a child reaches school age, many of the early developmental stages that promote literacy have occurred, and the child who hasn't experienced them within the family circle is at a disadvantage. Low literacy repeats itself throughout generations of families.
People with low literacy skills are often marginalised and disenfranchised. They're excluded from decision-making. Literacy levels affect their ability to participate in politics and other activities that influence the well-being of their families and their communities.
As a result, society misses out on engaging the talent of a large group of people who have experiences and skills to offer, and whose voices are not heard.
Low literacy is a serious issue of health and safety, both at home and in the workplace. From reading instructions for dosage on a medicine bottle, to interpreting blueprints and instructions, to understanding symbols and warnings for hazardous materials, to following maps and diagrams. The list goes on and on.
Wherever the need exists to apply literacy, whether written language, numeracy, or diagrams and symbols, there are risks for adults with literacy challenges, and these risks can be life-threatening.
There are many people around the world who are not so fortunate when it comes to reading. The global adult literacy rate is currently 84%, with over 750 million adults who cannot read. The global youth literacy rate is currently 92%, with over 120 million youth who cannot read.
The lowest literacy rates are observed in sub-Saharan Africa and in South and West Asia. In Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, East Asia, the Pacific, Latin America and the Caribbean, the average adult and youth literacy rates were greater than 90%.
The Arab states in South and West Asia have made the greatest progress in improving adult and youth literacy over the past 2 decades.
Between 1990 and 2011, the adult literacy rate in the Arab states rose from 55% to 77%, and the youth literacy rate from 74% to 90%.
Over the same period, the adult literacy rate in South and West Asia increased from 47% to 63%, and the youth literacy rate from 60% to 81%.
What is the cost of illiteracy? The cost of illiteracy to the global economy is estimated at over $1 trillion.
The effects of illiteracy are very similar in developing and developed countries. This includes illiterate people trapped in a cycle of poverty with limited opportunities for employment or income generation, and higher chances of poor health, turning to crime and dependence on social welfare or charity.
The early Muslims had a great commitment to literacy, which contributed to the development of great libraries. Collections of texts were attached to mosques, schools and research institutes.
So widespread were public book collections that it was impossible to find a mosque or learning centre of any sort through the Muslim world without a collection of books available for students or readers. Baghdad, for example, had 36 public libraries and over 100 book dealers and publishers.
While mosque libraries served spiritual needs, the research institutes were established to promote more secular scientific and technological inquiry. Examples include an astronomical laboratory and translation center founded in Baghdad in the early 800s and Dar al-Hikmah, or State Library, established in Cairo in the year 1004. Both attracted scholars from throughout the world.
The great mathematician Ibn al-Haytham was affiliated with the Dar al-Hikmah during his stay in Egypt. Ibn al-Haytham's study of optics was among the first scientific books to be printed and deeply influenced the Renaissance and 17th century thinkers.
As parents, you are your child's most influential teacher, with an important part to play in helping your child to learn to read. Here are some suggestions on how you can help to make this a positive experience.
Set aside quiet time with no distractions. 10 to 15 minutes is usually long enough.
Make reading an enjoyable experience. Sit with your child. Try not to pressurize if he or she is reluctant. If your child loses interest, then do something else.
If your child mispronounces a word, do not interrupt immediately. Instead, allow an opportunity for self-correction. If your child does try to sound out words, encourage the use of letter sounds rather than alphabet names.
If your child says something nearly right to start with, that is fine. Don't say, no, that's wrong, but let's read it together and point to the words as you say them. Boost your child's confidence with constant praise for even the smallest achievement.
Parents anxious for a child to progress can mistakenly give a child a book that is too difficult. This can have the opposite effect to the one they want. Until your child has built up his or her confidence, it is better to keep to an easier book. Struggling with the book with many unknown words is pointless. Flow is lost, text cannot be understood, and children can easily become reluctant readers.
Encourage your child to use the public library regularly. And remember, using the library is free of charge.
Try to read with your child on most school days. Little and often is best. Teachers have limited time to help your child with reading, and your help will go a long way.
Your child will most likely have a reading diary from school. Try to communicate regularly with positive comments and any concerns. Your child will then know that you are interested in their progress and that you value reading.
There is more to being a good reader than just being able to read the words accurately. Just as important is being able to understand what is being read. Always talk to your child about the book, about the pictures, the characters, how they think the story will end, and their favourite part. You will then be able to see how well they have understood, and you will help them develop good comprehension skills.
Remember, children need to experience a variety of reading materials. For example, picture books, hardbacks, comics, magazines, poems, and information books.
We must not forget that the greatest book that one can read is the Quran, and we must take time to read it, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Whoever reads a letter from the book of Allah, he will have a reward, and that reward will be multiplied by 10. So encourage your children to read the Quran.
We hope you found this episode useful. Please join us next time. Until then, from myself, Sahar Zahid, and brother Baba Mirza, Assalamu alaikum.